Hey, so glad you guys are here. As I said when I came in, this was just added. When I got here this weekend, I was like, I was kind of surprised that there wasn't a screening set up, but I'm so very glad that you guys are here. If you're not in front of a screen, I would love to encourage you, pick one side here so that you can watch the screen head on. I think you'll enjoy it better that way. We look really funny askew. Real quick, let me just kind of give you guys a brief. Let me give you a brief kind of a background of this series. Like many of you, when I was a little boy, I fell in love with this show and I was inspired. I was inspired to try to build things that I'd never tried to build before and make costumes that I'd never tried to make before and shoot little movies on home film. There was no video. 8mm movie film. I'd round the kids in the neighborhood up and make them play Star Trek with me. And then I went to film school. I started acting because I loved William Shatner. I started auditioning for plays in school because I loved Bill Shatner and what that show meant to me and the relationships between the characters. And then I got into college and I majored in film because I loved making film. And now I'm a professional voice actor. I do a lot of voice work for animated shows and video games. But Star Trek has always been the catalyst, the thing in my life when I was a little kid that just kind of jump-started my imagination. So imagine how euphoric it is and what a privilege it is for me, 40 years after I discovered this show, to take all of the skills that I've developed over the years and blend them together with my childhood love. I have worked on some other fan productions over the years, and one of the things that I noticed immediately was that I felt like it could be done so much better. You know, acting and stories and lighting and editing and so many different things that I felt like could be done closer to the original series. So I put together a great group of actors and friends and artisans who are skilled as camera people and lighting people. They just happen to be Star Trek fans, but they're really good at what they did technically. We shot our first episode. How many of you have seen Pilgrim of Eternity, our first episode? Oh my gosh, you guys, please go home. After this one, you have to go home and watch them. They're all free. They're on the internet, StarTrekContinues.com. They're on YouTube and Vimeo. But our first episode was a sequel to an original series episode called Who Mourns for Adonis? You know that one, Adonias, with the Greek god Apollo? Remember that episode? Well, you guys, you ready? I was going to say, are you sitting down? But that's a rhetorical question. The guy that played Apollo, Mike Forrest, in the original episode, reprised his role as Apollo in our episode. And he was brilliant. It was a wonderful episode. And after we did that episode, which I paid for out of my own savings account because I just wanted to do it, I didn't think it was right to ask people to give me money for something that I hadn't proven I could do. So I didn't launch a Kickstarter. I made it with my own money, and then after we made the first one, we launched a fundraising campaign to make more episodes, and we got enough to make 3 more episodes, and that's exactly what we did. We made 2, 3, and 4. Episode 2, anyone see Lolani? Episode 2, oh see, you guys need to go home, watch more episodes. Episode 2 featured guest star Lou Ferrigno. Now here's the best part, I'll give you a little spoiler. Lolani was about an Orion slave girl that stows away on the Enterprise and wants asylum because she does not want to be returned to the slave trade industry on Orion. And her owner comes out after her to claim his property. Now what color are Orions? Green. Lou Ferrigno is green again. We also featured guest starring cameos by Aaron Gray from Buck Rogers, Jamie Bamber from Battlestar Galactica, Daniel Logan from Star Wars. We've had a great group of people involved. And then our third episode, every one of them just kept getting better. The third episode was a continuation of the Mirror Mirror episode, which most people list in their probably top 5 favorites. We picked it up right where the original ended, because if you remember that episode, it ended with Kirk with good Kirk challenging Mirror Spock to make a difference in his universe. Be the captain of this Enterprise, Mr. Spock. Find a logical way of sparing these people and make a difference, right? And then he beams away. And the last thing Spock said was, Captain Kirk, I shall consider it. So did he consider it? You know what I mean? What happened when Mirror Kirk returned to his Enterprise? What did Spock do? Did he do anything? Our episode takes place, the whole episode takes place on the Mirror Enterprise the moment Mirror Kirk returns to the ship. It's an amazing episode. And we spared no expense in recreating every element of the Mirror Enterprise. Their uniforms, you remember, they were all different, completely different. The symbols all over the dagger symbols all over the ship, even the chair back on the back of Kirk's chair, that extended chair, a captain's chair. And so check that one out as well. The episode is called Fairest of Them All. Get it? Mirror, mirror on the wall. And then our fourth episode, which we're going to watch together today. I'm very excited about this episode because because of my deep love for Captain Kirk, I always felt, and I don't want to give too much away, but I'm going to set it up for you. I never liked the perception of Captain Kirk as a womanizer, as like he just runs around banging girls wherever he goes, and then he just flies away with absolutely no, you know what I mean? He doesn't feel anything. And I felt like that's not really consistent with a man of his integrity and leadership. So I started exploring that idea, and I decided that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes here in Captain Kirk than maybe any of us ever really thought about. And that's what this episode discusses. And I think if you know the original series, you're going to love a lot of the things and people that you get to see in a few minutes. And as our esteemed gentleman mentioned earlier, we got Colin Baker, the Sixth Doctor, as the guest star of this episode that you're about to see. How cool is that? The two most iconic sci-fi shows in television history coming together. He did a wonderful job, as you're about to see. We also have a guest starring role with Adrienne Wilkinson, who you may know from the Renegades fan production that's about to be released. She was in Xena, and she's downstairs signing. So go down and say hi to her after you watch the episode, okay? And hopefully we can take a few minutes to chat after to answer whatever questions you may have. For those of you that don't know anything about this, I think you're in for a real treat. We have an 18,000 square foot facility where we've completely recreated the entire soundstage from the original series. It's like walking back in time when you step onto that thing. Chuck, please welcome Chuck Huber, Dr. McCoy. In uniform, as you can see.
It's onesie Sunday. It's around our household. We wear onesies on Sunday.
I'm a doctor, not a penguin. Well, wait, I'm a penguin.
I'm a penguin.
And I also want to introduce you to my lovely fiance, Miss Michele Specht.
Hi. So glad you guys trekked up here. See what I did?
Oh, I see what you did there. Now, let me just tell you about Michelle's character real quick. 15 seconds. When we wanted her to be a part of the show because she's an amazing actress. And we talked about maybe being Nurse Chapel. And then I thought, you know what? In Next Generation, the ship had a counselor. But when did they start that? Every ship had one in Next Generation, ship's counselor. But they didn't have one in the original series. So we thought, wouldn't it be cool if maybe the first ever experimental ship's counselor shows up on the Enterprise as this test project that Starfleet's trying. So we created an original character. Her name is Dr. Elise McKenna. Any Somewhere in Time fans might recognize that reference. I always loved that episode, or that movie. So she's Dr. McKenna, and she's a wonderful character. And check out the other episodes to see how she is introduced and how she develops.
This is a really good episode for McKenna.
It is, and I'll tell you in advance that Captain Kirk is a bit reluctant. In the other episodes, Captain Kirk is a bit reluctant to acknowledge that they even need a ship's counselor. I mean, he's got McCoy, right? It's like, what? I don't really know. So he's been a bit apprehensive about welcoming her into the cast, into the crew, in the other 3 episodes. So keep that in mind as you watch this one. Well, we thought from the very beginning that it would be really fun to incorporate a lot of different franchises. Bless you. You know, it would be really neat to have people from all different series and franchises to be a part of this, not just Star Trek people. And we've got a guest star lined up for our next episode. I'll give you a little hint. This person is here this weekend, but not from Star Trek. So, dun dun dun. The drama continues. Yeah.
One thing that really amazed me watching the episodes and all that was the set designs.
Yes.
And just absolutely the material you guys used to build it. I mean, were you guys really looking to recapture it or to add some flair to it?
Absolutely. You know, the original floor plans to the stage, to Stage 9, are online. I mean, you can find them. You can see like a kind of a schematic drawing of the way it was all laid out. And if you see them, you see that all of the sets were interconnected. They had the big bending corridor, and all of the rooms were connected to it. And so when we got the building, our DP, Matt Busey, also happens to have a degree in architecture from Harvard. How convenient. And Matt said, hey, I'll take the original floor plans and I'll extrapolate all of the dimensions off the floor plans. You know, if you have a common number, if you have a single common number, you can extrapolate off of that. Like if I know that this panel is 4 feet by 8 feet, then you can get all the rest of your measurements from it. So he did that, and we built the sets to those specifications. So I would dare say they're within inches of what the original series sets were. And they're all interconnected, exactly like the original series sets were. Those of you that had not seen the first episode probably were a bit thrown by the holodeck. We introduced that in the very first episode. That was another one of those things where you're like, okay, we know they had that in Next Generation, but when did they start it?
They had it in the animated series.
Yeah, and it even made a brief appearance in the animated series. So we thought it would be neat to introduce an experimental holodeck that had certain capabilities and limitations, of course. So in our very first episode, Kirk and Scotty are trying out the holodeck. And so we thought, what a perfect opportunity to bring it back here and allow Kirk to have one more minute with these women that he had these relationships with, and to say something that he wished he could have said. I think probably all of us have people in our lives like that. You know, man, if I could just get one more chance to say that one thing, or that one more minute. Had I known, you know, I would have. And so to give him that chance in the original setting, whether it had been on the street with Edith Keeler, or in the hut with Miramani, or in the sick bay with Nakia, the holodeck was the perfect vehicle for that.
By the way, did anyone recognize the voice of our computer?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did? Yes, it was Marina Sirtis.
Hey!
Onesie Sunday.
It is onesies. I was helping Jessica. She had a lot of people buying her art at her table.
That's a good problem to have.
Did you guys
Yes.
like the episode?
I have to tell you a story about Dr. McCoy, too.
Okay.
Chuck is a voice actor, longtime veteran voice actor along with me, and I've known him for many years, and he's one of my favorite people, and he's a great actor. And so when I was preparing this series, and I'd always decided I want good actors. Not just fans, but people who are actors, people who can tell good stories and portray the characters in heavy situations. So I asked Chuck, and he was on board, and if you guys go online and look, you'll find that before we released our very first episode, we made 3 little vignettes, little dramatic vignettes, introducing the new cast, the new characters to the world, so that when the first episode came out, you would kind of feel like you kind of got them already. And Chuck was Dr. McCoy. We did an extension of the Turnabout Intruder episode. You remember that was the last episode that was ever aired, with Dr. Lester and the woman that got switched places with Kirk so that she could take over the Enterprise. And so we extended that episode, basically saying we're picking up right where the original left off.
So we recreated the last 5 minutes of that, shot
Yeah.
for shot.
Yeah, if you look
Shot
on
for shot.
YouTube.
YouTube.
Is it pronounced YouTube? Okay.
The U-tub is it where you take a bath. Jump in.
It's a German bathtub. Das YouTube.
U shower was too long, so we just U-tub.
But yeah, on YouTube, the oh god, you made me laugh and suck snot down my lungs. Damn you, Vic. But there's a side-by-side comparison of our vignette with the actual thing, shot for shot, and Vic did an amazing job matching every frame.
Yeah, check it out. It's online. Everything's free to watch, and it's online. But we did the Turnabout Intruder thing, and then we did one called Happy Birthday, Scotty, where the Enterprise gets a new shipment of phasers that have been upgraded a little bit. And at first glance, they look just like the original phasers, but on closer inspection, they have some tweaks. So we kind of introduced a little bit of an upgrade phaser that's kind of moving slowly toward next generation. And then we did one more called You've Got the Con, which was a great little vignette with Uhura and Sulu and Chekhov, where they're on night shift. And none of the senior officers are there, so they take turns sitting in the captain's chair and joke with each other about it, you know, and sit like they think Captain Kirk would sit and stuff, and then Kirk walks in and catches them. But Chuck was always my choice for McCoy. And about a month before we were supposed to shoot our first episode, the one with Apollo, something came up with Chuck. He had a responsibility, an obligation that certainly took priority. And so at the last minute, I was faced with, oh no, I'm trying to get this thing off the ground, and I just lost one of the big three. So I have a very dear friend named Larry Nemechek. A lot of you Trek people know Larry. I love Larry to death, and Larry loves McCoy the way I love Kirk. And he said, well, I'll step in. I'll do it. So he played McCoy for our first 2 episodes and did a wonderful job. But then Chuck Huber comes back to me and says, okay, I really want to be a part of this. I'll sweep floors if you want me to. I'll AD. I just want to be a part of it. And so Larry is our script consultant, creative consultant, because he knows as much about Star Trek as anybody, and he's still a very big part of the production. But Chuck was able to return as Dr. McCoy. So in episode 3, the mirror episode, Chuck was back for the first time, and he's back in this one, and wait till you see episode 5. It's a big, I don't have it with me. I would show you the trailer because episode 5 is done. We are cranking them out as quick as we can. And episode 5 is our first episode off the ship. It takes place almost entirely on location, and I'm very excited for you to see it. It will be, we're going to show a preview, a teaser. We'll show the teaser at Vegas, at the Vegas Star Trek convention. If any of you are big enough Trekkies to go to that, we'll be showing it. And then it'll be released in September. We'll probably premiere it at, I'm thinking we may premiere it at Salt Lake Comic-Con. So.
I just have okay, we've got questions. I just want to see a show of hands. Who here, was this your first time seeing the show? You've never heard of it? Holy guacamole! Thank you for coming. I hope you'll go home and watch more of it. I hope it is of interest.
And the price is right.
I know, right? Love it. You can watch it in your undies. You don't even have to
You can watch it in your U-tub. And let me say something else about, she just said something, when we were talking about being able to watch it for free. This is no doubt a question. How do you deal with the CBS thing, and do you have a license? No. We deal with it because we don't make money. CBS is very gracious to the fan productions. As long as you don't monetize, as long as you don't try to make money on their property, they allow the fan productions to exist. I feel like we've kind of taken it to a new level, but we're still not making a penny. And that's the caveat. As long as any money that's raised goes to the cost of production, then they allow it to continue. So that's exactly how it exists. We can't charge money for it. But that was never my intention in the first place. It was always a labor of love. It was always a desire to do something out of my passion for this show that inspired me. So I don't really care about making money. I try to take care of my people. We fly everybody down. We pay for everybody's flights. We put everybody in hotels. We give people food to eat. We have food on set.
Free cigars every night.
Yeah, cigars. But and food services on set and on the set. And renting equipment, dollies, tripods, things that you need to shoot the episode. But I'll give you guys a little bit of an interesting financial perspective. In 1967, 68, 69, when the series was made, their budget per episode was about $115,000 per episode in 1968, 69.
What is that now?
Today, it's over $1 million.
Wow.
Keep that number in your mind. Over $1 million to make an episode of the original series. Our episodes average $50,000. We are making what is close to the same level production value as what they did for, 20th?
Mm-hmm. That was good, quick math. I'm kind of
I have always felt very strongly about good stewardship. I have a real problem with people raising money and then misusing it or abusing that gift.
Not delivering.
Or delivering, heaven knows when. I have a real problem with it, and I'm controlling it right now. I'm trying to control it. But I always purposed that what we were going to do was we were going to make a quality product. We were going to do exactly what we said we were going to do when we said we were going to do it, and we were even going to try to do it better. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. We only had money for 4 episodes, right? I made the first one with my money, I told you. Then our Kickstarter covered 2, 3, and 4. You know what we did when we shot 4? I thought to myself, you know what? We could save the fans some money if we were to shoot 4 and 5 at the same time. And then we wouldn't have to fly everybody down twice, right? So we busted our butts to get the script for episode 5 completed at the same time as 4, and we shot that, and so we actually delivered another episode and saved $10,000 or $15,000 because we want to give the fans and the people that donate what they expect and what they deserve for their hard-earned donation.
It kind of blows my mind when I think that this is all also, yay, thank you. This is all part-time. We're doing this on donated hours. Everybody has full-time jobs, and we all live across the country. So any vacation day that we have is this. Any weekends that we have is put toward working on this. So shows that have full staffs, hundreds of people working on them, doing pre-production, during production, post-production. We're doing with a handful of people that you can count on 2 hands in spare hours for free.
So for roughly $300,000, So for roughly $300,000, we've already produced and delivered 4, 5 full-length episodes with a dozen sets, 24 actors. I mean, a lot of value for what we've been able to
get. So if there's like a CBS executive in the audience right now, you can pick it up for a song. It's cheap. See, we'll do 26 episodes a year. I swear, if somebody would say, could you quit everything and do Star Trek
just do
for
this.
5 years? I would do it.
We would do it. The only 3 things that keep us from doing more episodes is number 1, money, because while we're making a lot for a little, you still have to have the little. And number 2 is availability, because everybody involved has careers and families and obligations, and so everybody graciously takes 10 days or twice a year where we all come together and we shoot an episode. And then the third thing, to be honest with you, is stories. Quality stories. They're harder to come by than you would think. As soon as you start raising the bar to, we want to tell a classic Star Trek story, something that resonates with moral, depth and ethical dilemmas and social commentary, suddenly a lot of the stories that have been submitted are like not, you know what I mean? They're just not up to muster, Captain Kirk beams down to the planet and he fights the Klingons. No. What's it about? You know what I mean? What's it about? There's got to be something deeper there. So it's become a lot harder to find good stories. If we had 6 or 7, and the money, we could probably make 6 or 7 a year. But and before I forget, www.StarTrekContinues.com. There's a nice little convenient donate now button. If you like what you saw, and you can share it with some other people that you know are Star Trek fans in your lives, anything you can do, you can clearly see that it goes to a very good purpose. Yes?
Probably unimportant, but I was just wondering, was there any difference that I really
Good eye!
Love it! Love that you saw it.
Good.
I was doing a convention appearance in Australia with Barbara Eden. And I was there for 2 weeks with her, and she had a gentleman with her who made these amazing replica bottles. And they would sell them at her table, and then she would sign them. So we spent 2 weeks together on the bus going back and forth to the show and going out to dinner as a group every evening. And by the end of the 2 weeks, we were buddies. And Barbara Eden said to me, "Vic, would you like one of my bottles?" And I was like, "Yes, please." And I thought, what a perfect thing to sit. That would be just the kind of little trinket that Kirk would have picked up on a mission somewhere, and I thought it would be fun to include it.
It's a genie planet. Oh, there's a good story.
Yes, sir.
First, I want to thank you because you brought me back to my childhood. I was 7 again, sitting, actually lying down in front of the TV with my, with my chin in my hands, going ahead and watching Star Trek again. And what I want to know is, what was your childhood experience? What was it?
Before Vic goes into that, he's I don't know. You can see it on YouTube. There is footage of him dressed up like Kirk at age 7 or 9 or something.
On Super 8 films.
Super 8 film, like he was, and his Kirk was just as good back then as his was now.
This is the kid that asked his mom to teach him how to sew so he could make the uniforms and make uniforms for all the kids in his.
He was the first person to
He
speak
learned
Klingon
how to-
on the planet.
Yeah. Learned woodworking so he could make communicators for himself.
I would
Save money for a camera. I'm just gonna go. So he could recreate the video.
We can tell your stories, Vic. We know
We
them.
know.
You've heard them, that's for sure.
Tape recorder. Tell them
When I was 10, 11, and 12, around that time, 9, 10, I just discovered the show and just was enthralled with it. I would come home every day. We had a 19-inch black and white, and it would sit on the floor because we didn't have a table. And I would sit on the floor, channel 11 in Pittsburgh, and I would watch it every day at 5 o'clock. And I would take a cassette recorder, and I would sit it by the speaker of the television and record the episode on an audio cassette. And then I would take the cassette player and put it under my pillow at night and listen, lay like this on my pillow, and listen to the episodes and go to sleep. So I memorized them. Like you could say, such and such an episode, and I'll start quoting the lines. I mean, like I just absorbed it. Would go to conventions when I was a little boy, and like she said, my mom had a sewing machine, and I asked her to teach me to use it so I could make uniforms, and rounded the kids in the neighborhood up and made Star Trek episodes and made props, and it was the first thing that inspired me to want to do creative things. And I was thinking to myself a few months ago, why do I love Captain Kirk so much? Why do I love that character so much? And then it hit me. I discovered Star Trek when my parents divorced. I was 9 years old and my dad was gone. Completely gone. No relationship. And here was this strong, brave leader with his friends, and I was like, wow, I want to be like that. So as a little boy, Kirk became a father figure in many ways to me. So imagine what a privilege this is to get to play that character and continue the thing that I loved so much.
Just one other thing. One of the things that I was impressed, because a lot of people saw the reruns in the 70s when color TVs were not as sharp and bright in regards to color. Many people do not realize that Spock, during the original run, did have a little greenish. Oh yeah, she's doing it.
Yeah.
People thought, okay, it was just,
Oh yeah, Spock's makeup was a kind of a sallow greenish color as opposed to the humans. Oh yeah. And if I may be so bold, the episodes, looked okay, but projection was a little off. It was a little washed out. The blacks weren't quite. It just wasn't quite as vivid. It looks amazing on Vimeo and YouTube. So when you get home, I would encourage you to check it out again. And the other episodes, they look quite wonderful.
So you raised the money to build an engine room. So presumably episode 6 you should got it for a while.
And you shall. Our latest Kickstarter in February, we raised money to build engineering, which was the only set we didn't have, which was the huge set, 2 stories, the core, all of it. And I got pictures right here. I've been down twice myself already to put some of my own sweat equity into building. I've been down there a dozen times, hammering, sawing, cutting, painting, because I want to be a part of it. So I'm going back down at the end of August, and I've got photos. We're in the finishing stages of engineering. So what you saw in this episode was green screen of engineering, and so in the next episode you'll get to see the real deal. Yes.
So, Bill and I, as we were driving here today, were reminiscing about some of the older creations that you did. Remember Princess Bride,
Oh my gosh,
and
yes.
Trudy's List, and Raiders, and those things. We go way back. And Vic was doing all kinds of different projects for things at our church.
One of the things that Vic is very humble about is that he is an expert filmmaker. He showed me one of those little films that he did. It was the Napoleon Dynamite one, and I was like, you are really good at making movies, dude. You are squandering your talent slightly. You should make something.
I know, and we were just reminiscing as we were driving here today about, after watching all of the videos last night, these programs, your attention to detail is, it was phenomenal back in the day when we were getting the opportunity to work with you. But we just talked about these 4 episodes and how fabulous you did. It's just, you've done such an incredible job.
I appreciate you saying that, and I want you guys to know, thank you for that. But you know what? I'm surrounded by an amazing group of people. When I started this thing,
That's not true. I'm a jerk.
Except for the penguin.
Go back in the YouTube.
Before you say that, he does all that detail. He does all that executive producing work. He acts as Kirk. Sometimes he's directing the episode.
And writing.
And I've been on hundreds of sets, and I've never seen a guy with that much responsibility never lose his cool. And Vic has never lost his cool. Knock on wood. Never lost his cool on set. You see his eyes go really wide every once in a while, and he'll walk out of the room. He'll go, and then he comes back in like 10 seconds later. Okay, guys, I've got a plan. And then he fixes it all. But he has never lost his cool on set. I've lost my cool, and I'm just McCoy.
I always told everybody if I was ever going to do this, I wanted to do it with friends. I didn't just want to, not a bunch of hired guns, you know what I mean? Just not a bunch of people you pay to do this and do that didn't really care much about what you were doing. They're just being paid. And so I purposed to make choices for people, to bring people in that I loved. The guy that plays Spock is another voice actor, a friend of mine named Todd Abercorn. Great actor, nice guy. I wanted my friends. I wanted people that I loved and cared about to be a part of this. It might interest you to know that a lot of our crew, cast and crew, live in Los Angeles. We get together, like socially. We go out and have big dinners at restaurants, 10, 12, 15 of us, when we're not shooting. That tells you the level of connection and friendship that we've built. And you know who comes to every one of those social events? Michael Forrest and his wife, Apollo. Because we had such a great connection when he did our first episode that we go over to his house and have drinks, and we all go out to dinner, and our makeup supervisors, Uhura, our sound supervisor, Ralph Miller, James Kerwin, who is one of our production team. He directed the 3rd episode and this one. Who else? Chris Doohan. I don't know if you noticed that. Chris Doohan is playing his father's role as Scotty. That's the son of the original actor. How cool is that? And Grandy Mahara from Mythbusters playing Sulu. Not only do we have a great time on set, but we've actually been friends and strengthened friendships, which I think comes across. I want us to have the same people. It's really hard sometimes when you're doing a voluntary thing.
That's the hard part, because we're doing all this for free.
It's hard.
Sorry guys to interrupt, but we're going to have to wrap it up.
Okay.
1 minute.
It's hard to keep the same group of people together. But I feel so strongly about that because it's kind of like become a family. And I think it benefits the viewer as well to see the same actors in the same roles in repeated episodes. Last question?
Yeah, does Shatner know about you?
That's a great last question.
Yes, he
Great
does.
last question.
Yeah, let me tell you this. I've become friends with Bill because we have the same manager, and we've done a lot of conventions together. I've just spent 5 days in Dubai with him at the Middle East Film and Comic-Con. We hung out, we go to dinner, we sightsee. I've become friends with him, and I have made it a specific point not to talk about Star Trek because I want to be his friend. I don't want to be the crazy, nutty fan, you know what I mean? I don't want him to see me like that. Because I'm not. I mean, I do my thing. I'm a voice actor, and I have a signing table, like everybody else. But I've been very subtle about this with Mr. Shatner because clearly I hold him in enormous regard. In Dubai, his wife, who was on the trip, asked several questions about Star Trek Continues while Bill was sitting right there. So he heard about it, he was interested in knowing more about it, and at the end of the trip I gave him a Blu-ray with the first 3 episodes on it, and he promised he would watch it, and I told him this wouldn't be without you. This wouldn't have happened without you. I know he's heard that a million times in his career, but I did tell him that I'm doing what I'm doing today because of his inspiration and this show's inspiration. You guys, www.StarTrekContinues.com. Check out the other episodes if you haven't seen them. Tell your friends like us on Facebook. Official Star Trek Continues. And we're going to go downstairs and sign a little bit more and take some photos. So if we haven't gotten a chance to meet you yet, please come by and say hello. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
Live long and prosper. God bless you guys.